You're listening to Change Your POV Podcast, episode 109.
They have a saying, it's called abs are made in the kitchen, not the gym. So, I mean, diet is like 70% of weight loss. If you put it in like simple terms, your energy expenditure has to be more than your energy consumed or your calories consumed. I mean, if it's just that simple. A lot of people don't realize how much they actually eat.
Welcome to Change Your POV Podcast, helping you navigate transitions in your life, like entering and exiting college or the military, changing jobs or careers, and providing you with the coaching and mentorship needed to help you advance in your personal or professional life. Sometimes all you need is to change your point of view. Now, here's your host, Eddie Lazary.
All right, so welcome to Change Your POV, folks. This is your host, Eddie Lazary, and Bennett is still on his little hiatus, working on his off shift, so he will not be joining us for this interview, unfortunately. But we do have a very special guest, Joe Stotlar, who is the podcast answer man's very own Cliff Ravenscraft's personal, what do you call yourself, his personal hurt locker?
I did mention that once.
Yeah. All right. So welcome to the show, Joe. Thank you very much for your time. I know you're a very busy guy. But we wanted to get on the show, and we wanted to talk about your service in the Marine Corps and kind of what you're up to now, how you got into working with Cliff, and we just got a ton of questions for you. Ready to go?
Ready to go. Let's do it.
All right. So I know you were in the Marine Corps, and we talked before we started recording that you were in Sangin. Talk to me about your service. When did you join, and what was your military career like?
I went in 2009, right out of high school. I mean, Sangin wasn't really all that exciting. Not while I was there. I went to Sangin in 2012, and that was kind of towards the end of all the activity, all the fun stuff. So I still went out, normal patrols and everything. We did take contact and had to do the whole military thing, but the level that I got through wasn't near as bad as, just even a few months earlier. It had calmed down a lot. And then there's certain times out of the year where everything really picks up. If it's too hot out or too cold, then even the bad guys, they're not even out.
Right.
So,
yeah.
During those months is a lot of portion of time that I was there, so it was relatively dead. But things still happen. It was still dangerous, but I enjoyed it for the most part.
Yeah. How long were you there for?
I was there from March till September, so I believe it was 7 or 8 months.
Okay. Now, I was in Iraq, and we had FOBs in Iraq, but I was in Iraq way back in 03 or March 04 to March 05 is when I was in Baghdad. And we had FOBs. And you guys in Afghanistan, were they called FOBs, or did you guys call them something different?
We still had FOBs. I was on FOB Jackson for a while, but we'd go out to the little observation posts, OPs as well. And it was just kind of one day we're here, the next day we're down at this other base. Just a lot of moving around, keeping things mixed up.
We
still call them FOBs.
What was your MOS?
I was an 0331 machine gunner.
Okay.
Carried the big guns around. I was attached mostly with weapons companies, so we had trucks and everything. Didn't do a whole lot of foot patrols, but when we did do those, we'd take the smaller machine guns, something that we could actually carry around and put to use.
You were East Coast or West Coast Marine?
I was West Coast.
Okay.
Hollywood Marine, as they call them.
Hollywood Marine, nice. Yeah, man, that's pretty cool. And So what you got to forgive me, man. I'm not a Marine. I am a soldier, as it were. So the Hollywood Marines, what division is that?
I was in 1st Battalion, 7th Marine Division.
Got it.
I mean, you're going to go, doesn't matter if you go East or West Coast to boot camp, you could get put in any of the divisions.
Right. 0331, nice. So did you get a chance to fire that thing while you were over there? Or?
Not anything too large. I did get to play around with the 249 and 240 Bravo, like the 50 cal, the Mark 19. Those heavy machine guns, we had to have a lot of clearance to actually put those downrange, so I never got to use any of that fun stuff.
Yeah, the rules of engagement fluctuates like crazy from from deployment, year to year. It's craziness.
It was basically, if I'm not being shot at, if I don't have any direct threat, then I can't do anything.
Right. And so you got out in 2013?
2014. I did a 5-year contract.
Okay.
A little extra time, but.
So I know you got out of the Corps and you decided you were going to take advantage of your GI Bill, right?
Yeah, so I used my tuition assistance while I was in there, and they give you like a technical school that you can go through. And I did mine with personal training and got the personal training, fitness, nutrition, and exercise therapy. And then I'm using that, as my play money while I'm in school, using the actual GI Bill.
Right. So health and nutrition and all that, you were interested in pursuing that before you even got out. Is that right?
Yeah, before I got out, a couple of my buddies, they got me into it on my first deployment. Back in high school, that was not me at all. I was a little chubbier and didn't know anything about fitness or nutrition, but I knew what I wanted to do when I got out. I had that going for me. A lot of these guys have no idea what's going on.
Right, yeah. I talked to a lot of veterans, and that's the case. They get out, they know they want to get out, they get out, and they're like, oh, man. They either try to go back to what they were doing before they went in, or they just land whatever they can get, and very little planning in a large degree is done by most guys that get out. And that's true across branches, and it's true across ranks as well. I've talked with a lot of senior NCOs and even officers that get out and find themselves like, oh man, what do I do now? You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. It's kind of sad, but that's the reality.
Yeah. So when you got out, did you go back home where you're from, or? No,
I'm from Arizona originally.
Okay.
And I just really didn't want to go back to Arizona. Like, wasn't against the heat. It's not that I don't want to be around my family. I just wanted a different change of scenery. I lived in the desert my entire life, being stationed in Southern California. So desert there, Afghanistan's more desert. I was just ready for some green.
Yeah, yep. I grew up in Nevada, just a little bit north of Arizona, but yeah, man, I hear you. You kind of get used to it, but then after a while, it's like, oh man, you're just done with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the green, I love it.
Yeah. So where are you at now?
I live in Kentucky.
Kentucky. Yeah, I went to Scout Leaders course there at Fort Knox. How far from Fort Knox are you?
What city's that in?
Oh man, I don't even know. Good question. I didn't go to any real cities. I went straight to there for training, and then went back to Fort Hood, Texas. That's where I did most of my time.
Yeah, I don't travel south much, or I don't travel much at all anymore. I'm like right on the border of Ohio though, so basically Cincinnati.
Got it. Yeah.
I think Fort Knox is probably a little drive for me.
Yeah, and it's kind of, I think, in the middle of nowhere too, as are most Army bases for some reason. But so how long before you got settled over there did you start taking on clients for personal training and such?
When I got out of the Marines, I have a friend that I was in the Marines with, and he's from here, so I've just moved in with him. We got our apartment together, and we kind of he was all set in when I moved out here, so I didn't really have to do anything. I just showed up and started paying rent. And then I just hung out, and I didn't do anything for 2 months. Didn't get a job yet or anything. And then I started working at GNC and playing with supplements and stuff. And I just never really took advantage of the training until I was working out at the gym. And one of the trainers there, she came up to me and was like, I know you have your certification. Why aren't you doing this? And so it wasn't until I guess January last year, 2015, that I started personal training. Picked up Cliff. He was one of my first clients over there. So.
Yeah. So were you picking up your clients right out of the gym, or?
Well, I started training for LA Fitness, and so they actually have it set up where they like bring in clients for you. You don't actually have to go out and find them.
Yep.
And then once they get their clientele pulled in, then they just kind of divvy them up between the trainers that they have there, depending on what times the trainers are available and what time works best for the client.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of got lucky and got stuck with Cliff.
Yeah. So what year was that? Was that in 2015 as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
2015, and then I left LA Fitness this summer, just as school got out in May, and started Water Dogs Fitness.
Okay.
Cliff was smart enough to come with me.
Nice. So what kind of condition was Cliff in when he first came to you as a client?
I'm sure you've seen his posts or his before and after pictures or
Yep.
something like that. I mean, he was definitely unconditioned. He had started running and just doing like cardio based exercises when I got him, and he'd been doing that for 2 months at the time, 2 or 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And so he'd already lost, I think it was like 30 pounds. But once he started training with me, I mean, it just kept falling off.
Yeah. What did you change in his regime that kind of helped to drop the weight like it did?
Well, weight training and cardio, you actually burn the same amount of calories doing either exercise. It just depends on the intensity that you're putting into it.
Mm-hmm.
And by adding in weight training, it allowed him to do weight training and cardio at separate times during the day. So he's actually getting 2 workouts, just burning that many more calories. Helped him a little more on the diet portion. And then with the weight training, it really just tones everything, pulls everything in, and gives it that elasticity. So it really helped him. I mean, it definitely gives a leaner look as well as just burning that fat. But yeah, when we first started training, there were many times that he about passed out on me.
Just out of sheer exhaustion, or what?
Well, when you start doing weights, like the lactic acid buildup and just everything going through your body, like your body doesn't know how to process that, and it just kind of overwhelms you. And a lot of people get really lightheaded and just about pass out. You got to get a little bit of sugar in them. You know, sugar's not the best thing, but at that time, you got to get that glucose to bring your sugar levels back up to keep them from passing out. He went there many times.
Yeah. Until finally, how long did it take his body to get conditioned enough to be able to withstand that?
It actually took a lot longer than I would have expected. Some people, it doesn't take as long, but I think with Cliff, he pushed a lot harder than other people, so he had more tendency to get to that point.
Yeah. Do you notice that with new clients or people that are just starting out on their health and fitness journey, and they're just determined to get back into shape, that they kind of go overboard at first, take things a little too extreme? Yeah.
Yes, a lot of people do. I mean, they try and do like the fad diets and everything, and those are terrible in any sense. I mean, you go on there and it's just too much for your body, so eventually you just fall off of it and you go back to your old ways, and I mean, the weight flies back on, and then you just feel like you failed at something because you couldn't keep up with the strict diet that they had you on. And so a lot of people, they get disappointed from that, but they always go in so determined and motivated. And sometimes it's scary for me because I have to calm them down, be like, you can't do this much. You need a little more calories. You're exercising too much for right now.
Right.
And they usually just look at me like, what are you talking about? I just want this so bad. And
they're like, wait a minute, I've watched Biggest Loser. We're supposed to train for like 9 hours a day, right?
yeah.
So what do you recommend to somebody that is in that state, just starting out, in terms of, just a starting diet and a starting exercise and strength training regime?
Well, starting out, I'd recommend like 2 or 3 days worth of strength training for no more than like 30 minutes starting out, as well as 2 or 3 days of a cardio portion about the same amount of time. So you're getting between 4 and 6 days, depending on, how much time you have and everything. And then from there, you can build on top of that. Like Cliff, he's doing cardio and weights every day. So that's 12 workouts a week that he's doing. But it took him a long time to get to that point. And then they have a saying, it's called abs are made in the kitchen, not the gym. So, I mean, diet is like 70% of weight loss. If you put it in like simple terms, your energy expenditure has to be more than your energy consumed or your calories consumed. I mean, if it's just that simple. A lot of people don't realize how much they actually eat because the portion sizes are so large of everything. They see that on their plate and they eat it.
Right.
And in reality, they could eat half of that or even a quarter of that and be completely satisfied with that. They just eat that much because it's there.
Right. So what type of diet do you recommend?
Usually, it's not so much of a diet. There are certain things you want to avoid. Carbohydrates aren't a bad thing. You just have to time them properly. You want them earlier in the day, nothing too late at night, especially not within a few hours of going to sleep. Your trans fats, saturated fats, you want to cut as much of that out as possible. Proteins are awesome. Your lean meats, not a whole lot of red meat. But mostly it's just in limiting your calorie intake, not necessarily cutting out all the types of food that you enjoy. And you can still have those things, but in limited amounts. You have to be conscious of what you're eating and how much. And that's really what's going to bring that weight down. So a lot of people, they have these things that they really like. And when you tell them that they can't have that, it's really hard for them, and then they'll get like a little taste of it, and then they just binge all day, and it kind of it ruins the entire week.
Right.
I mean, you could eat an entire large pizza, and that's going to be a couple thousand calories. 1 pound of fat is 3,500 calories. So basically, if you're eating, just even 100 calories extra every day than you're burning over the course of a year, that's going to add up. That could be 10 pounds.
Wow.
And 10 pounds doesn't sound like a lot, but if that were the case for consecutive years, 4 or 5 years, that's 40 or 50 pounds that you've gained and you don't even notice.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of where I found myself. And a lot of guys that I know, they get out of the military, they kind of stop the, you know how it was when you're in the Corps. I was in the Army. We did, PT every single day. And we had PT tests that we knew we had to uphold and take on a regular basis. And it just becomes part of, I was in the Army for 10 years, so it just becomes part of your life at that point. And then, and then you get out and you don't have that mandatory, morning PT and mandatory AP tests. And it's easy to just kind of find yourself getting wrapped up in life, and you get busy and all things happen, and you got, you get kids and you get a wife, and all of those things stack up. And next thing you know, you look in the mirror and it's like, dude, like, how in the hell did I get to this point? You know what I mean?
And when you see yourself every day, you don't really notice it.
Right.
That's a beautiful thing about before and after pictures.
Right.
Even after a month or two of training and eating properly, you can just compare that month or 2 month difference, and it is just an amazing change when you can go look in the mirror and be like, I don't think I've lost a pound. I look the same. A lot of people even feel like they've gained weight once they start working out. A lot of that is due to just muscle buildup because, muscle does way more than fat. So a lot of people get worried about that number on the scale too. And they just, you need to pay more attention to that body fat percentage than the pounds that your body weighs. And that's just another thing that people get wrapped up in and can't have that.
It's like my my co-host, he and I are kind of doing this journey together where we're, eating clean and exercising. Every week we kind of have an accountability teleconference on Google Hangouts. He and I and a couple other guys are all doing this together. And he's like, yeah, man, he goes, I haven't dropped a lot in pounds, but I'm definitely losing inches. I can tell because, the pants are a lot looser. We've got to ratchet up our belts, and I think that's what you're talking about is you may not see the result on the scale in terms of number of pounds, but your body is like you said, it's redistributing its weight. It's losing fat and it's building lean muscle. And you could actually be going in the right direction and not see a big change in the scale, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, with healthy weight loss too, you're not going to see quick results. Things are going to take time. You have to be patient with it.
Yeah.
And with what you have, you've got your accountability, and that's going to be another huge thing, is having somebody to help keep you accountable and to motivate you. I mean, that's one thing that a lot of people don't have as well. And that's what, with training, that's a great thing about training, because I feel like a lot of the clients that I've had, I've trained couples, and they will, kind of battle each other in the gym and everything. But outside of the gym, they don't have that same determination. They go home, they'll eat pizza or drink a beer, whatever. And every time they come back in, I ask them, and it's like they can lie to their friends about it, be like, oh yeah, I don't eat that anymore, I'm working out, I'm doing good. But every time they come and talk to me, it's like they never want to lie to me. It's like a huge sin, I guess. They always just open up. They're like, oh yeah, I had this and this, and I feel terrible. What do I need to do? And I mean, it definitely helps with the accountability. I mean, it would be great for me to be there all the time and be like, no, put that down. You can't have that. But man, that would just take way too much time out of my life.
Yeah. Well, it's like you on your Facebook page, I see you got a picture of the gym and great big letters across the picture of the gym. It says church, right? Because it's very similar, right? That's your church, and to them, you are essentially almost their priest, right? And they don't want to lie to you. You can forgive them of all of their sins in terms of not following their diet and exercise, but they know at the end of the day, they're the ones that's, if they don't see the results they're looking for, it's not on you, right? If they don't follow what you're prescribing, I mean, it's not your fault.
No, I've had a client, he came in, he was 400 plus pounds. He was training with me 4 times a week for, I guess it was probably 8 or 9 months before I stopped seeing him. And he actually gained weight.
Oh, wow.
I mean, he had a desk job, and then he drove for Uber as well. So he was just always sedentary. And when he would be out driving around, he'd want to stop and get McDonald's or eat these chips or drink a soda. And those calories just kept adding up. And that half hour he was in the gym with me 4 times a week, yeah, we'd burn a lot of calories, would make him tired, make him sweat, but he consumed so many calories outside of that, it just wasn't even beneficial for him at all. I couldn't get him to get his diet right, and I mean, that was just his biggest downfall.
So as a personal trainer and you have a client like that, I mean, one, I'm sure it's got to be just incredibly frustrating, right?
It is. Yes, definitely.
What do you do? Do you just like say, all right, listen, either, follow this program or, I mean, because at the end of the day, they're a paying customer, but you're not in this game to just get paid regardless of result, right? You want to see people legitimately, like Cliff, right? Do what's prescribed and actually have results. I mean, I'm not a personal trainer, but if I was ever to get into that game, that, making money is great, but that is definitely not what I would be in it for,
Right. No, the health aspect is 1,000,000 times more rewarding than the money. But like with that client, that was while I was still working at LA Fitness. And for that, I mean, he was in a contract and I had to train him. I mean, that was my job there. Now that I'm doing my own business, have my own thing, I require much more from people. And if they're not willing to put that out there and push themselves, I'll let them go. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to play around with somebody who doesn't actually want this.
So describe for us what a typical, let's call it a week in the life of Cliff in terms of the training that you have him go through. Just give us a brief kind of Monday through Friday or Monday through Sunday or whatever your schedule looks like.
Well, I don't typically see him on Mondays, so he's been using up the rest of his sessions that he had purchased at LA Fitness. So he goes in with a trainer there and sees them for a half hour. He's got a female trainer there, and she's a little easier on him. She hasn't been with him as much, so she doesn't know his limitations yet. So he has a little easier Monday, and then he's recently started fasted cardio in the morning. So first thing when he gets up in the morning, he does at least a 30-minute cardio session without having any calories consumed in the past 8+ hours. Your body has to target the fat specifically. That's its only source of energy. So I mean, it's one of my favorite ways for fat loss in general. So he does that for 30 minutes, and then he'll have his breakfast, lunch. He usually only has breakfast and lunch before he comes and sees me Tuesday nights, and then he'll get his dinner on the backside of that, and so he's getting his protein consumption afterwards.
Post-workout, right.
Yeah,
okay.
He doesn't eat a whole lot for breakfast or lunch. He keeps his calories very monitored. And then when he comes in and sees me, he does another little cardio warm-up. He does about 10 minutes on treadmill or elliptical, whatever he has there. And then we do an hour of strength training, and it's usually him and his wife. And so they're kind of doing supersets, going back and forth, one exercise to the next, and they just kind of alternate for however many sets and repetitions I decide they're going to do that day. But each workout's going to differ. I don't want to do the same things all the time because the body gets used to it, and then it doesn't progress the way it typically would without the change of exercises. Or even just the slightest twist of like the wrist can drastically change what muscle group you're using in any exercise. So I really keep them going the whole time. I keep their heart rate up unless we're doing a heavy day. So a heavy day would be like 5 sets of 5 reps of the primary lifts. So bench press, deadlift, squats, those large muscle groups. Anything with the smaller accessory lifts for each muscle, we usually do something more around 10 repetitions because you don't want to stretch the muscle too much and end up with a tear or something.
Right.
So I really I keep them going the entire hour, just back and forth. By the end of it, if we're doing a chest day, which is typically our Tuesdays, I have Cliff get down and try and give me a push-up, and he just falls right on his face. He has no strength left in his chest, that he just goes straight down, and it is hilarious.
He told me that you said that, correct me if I get this wrong, but he said that you have this phrase, it's quitting's not an option, it's mandatory, or failure is not an option, it's mandatory, or something like that. And it brings you force him to bring all of his muscle groups to muscle failure before time to quit.
Yes, I do. Yeah, it was quite a while ago that I mentioned that to him, and I hardly remember how the saying went. But yeah, it was something along those lines where it was just, I'm the trainer. I'm always going to win in the end. I'm going to have him exactly where I want him when we finish, and that is exactly where he ends, on the floor, panting.
Yeah. Now, how much of your military experience versus your formal education in this area do you kind of pull forward into your the way you deal with clients in terms of a trainer?
Oh, in the military, I wasn't really ever like strict. I wasn't really vocal. I wouldn't yell at people. I was more of the silent leader, I guess. So I would come like face to face. If there was something wrong, I would get face to face with you and talk calmly. I wouldn't be screaming at you or anything. And so in the gym, I'm pretty much the same way. I'm not gonna yell at you. I'm not gonna be like, oh, come on, one more set, one more rep. You got this. I'm there. I'm gonna help with the movements. I will motivate you. I'll tell you how many you can do. I'm gonna get you to that point, but I'm not going to scream at you if you're not gonna be able to physically lift another rep. So I'm pretty much the same either way, and I don't think that's actually from the military. That's more my personality. I'm not very in your face about anything.
I'm sure you've seen or worked with trainers that were exactly opposite of that.
Not so much trainers. I mean, they're usually working around a large group of people, so they can't really yell at you and push you like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, in the military, everywhere you'd turn, you'd see that, and I never found that very effective.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can get in my face and scream all day long, and it's not going to bother me. But if you come up and talk to me like I'm a person too,
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of tell me what's going on, what you're thinking, I respond a lot better to that. And
Right.
I think that's the same way with my clients. If I'm yelling at you, you're just going to feel like a failure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want them to feel like failures. I mean, if they do come to failure, that's of that repetition. That's that set. That's fine. We'll set that down. We'll drop a little weight, and we'll go at it again.
Mm.
And that's going to promote them to continue pushing and continue wanting to come back, where they're not just being, demeaned the entire time.
Right. So you got a lot of people. I mean, I think all of us, right, kind of deal with this. There's just some days you're just, you got to get into the gym or you got to get your workout in and you're just not feeling it. It's not that you're sick or anything like that. It's just, you're just not, you know what I mean? Like you're just not motivated. Like what can people do if they get into that mode or they have a day or two that they're just like, like what are some kind of tips or tricks that you've experienced with either yourself or some clients that kind of help get over that hurdle?
I mean, everyone's going to have those days, and you just have to look at it as another day. You're not going to be at your best every day. It's not going to happen, especially if you're with the desire to lose weight. Reducing calories is going to reduce your energy.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not going to be able to push at 100% all the time. And so in the gym, if you're not feeling it that day, I mean, that's fine. Take a day off. Come back stronger tomorrow. I mean, it's just don't give up because one day got you down.
Mm. Yeah, and that's the thing too. I see people that start journeys and rarely ever finish them because they, like I used to smoke, right? And then I try to quit, and then I would do good for like 3 or 4 months, and then I'd have one cigarette again, and I'd be
And
like,
you're just like, oh, I'm done.
oh yeah, I'm like, oh,
Game
I
over.
screwed up. I guess I'm gonna just keep smoking, and then I would start smoking again, and then I would
Right.
quit, and then and so what I didn't realize is, okay, so what? I had one, but
Let it be
that
one.
doesn't let it be one, right? Just like working out, let it be one day you miss, or maybe even 1 week, whatever. You injure yourself, let it be 1 week. But that doesn't mean it's over, right? You don't have to start over. You just got to get back and keep going.
Right. I mean, just always keep pushing through that. You have to understand that you're going to have those days.
So between me and you, we won't let Cliff listen to this part, but because we don't want to give him a big head. But what are some of the biggest like achievements that you've seen in him that he perhaps might not have seen in himself?
I mean, since I saw him so often, when I saw his before and after picture, it hit everybody. the same. It was an amazing change. Most of the results that he's noticed, or that I've noticed, we've shared with each other. I mean, we saw each other so frequently, we kind of just talked about all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But when he started training with me, he had lower back problems. His back constantly hurt. He was always taking medication for it. And by working out, reducing his body weight and increasing his body strength, he no longer has that. And it's the same way with some of my other clients, constant migraines, by reducing the body weight, their migraines have went away, their joint pains went away. I mean, that's going to be the case with most clients. But again, with Cliff, I mean, he's always been like a very happy, enjoyable person to be around. But I think even now that he's healthy, I mean, he's increased that. He's even more bright and peppy. He's just, I don't even know. There's so many things that he's accomplished that it's amazing to see it.
Mm-hmm.
The first time that he ever did a box jump, just like the smile on his face, he had Stephanie record it for him.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he was still a big guy at the time. And for him to jump his entire body weight up a foot, 14 inches, however high that box was, that was like a huge thing for him. And he was so excited. It was awesome to see.
Yeah, man. And so you get people like Cliff or, anybody else that has really significant weight loss goals. I mean, that's why they come to a trainer like you, or that's why they're in the gym. And then they get to the point like Cliff where they I don't know if Cliff's 100% fully achieved his weight loss goals or if he's where he wants to be. But let's say he is. Let's say you have a client that has a lot of weight to lose, and they do. And they finally get to that place that they want to be and they're happy with their weight and the way they look. Do you ever experience where that person, like you work for so long for a goal, and then when you finally achieve it, you're like, okay, now what? Do you see that at all?
Yeah, actually, Cliff kind of got to that point just recently. He'd gotten to a goal of 200 pounds, and he kind of stopped with the diet. He was still working out every day, but he wasn't eating as clean. He'd have a movie night with his daughters, and they'd sit there and eat a pint of ice cream together. And one day I was just in there working out with him, and I asked him, how he was doing with his weight and his eating still. And he's like, "Oh, I'm not so much worried about the weight right now. I'm just eating a little more." He was happy with where he was, but he was starting to go back up in weight. And I mean, I had to ask him like what he was doing that was causing that. And I mean, he had to start like thinking about it. He had to think about the things that he'd done before that were different than what he was doing right now, and kind of adjust that. He's like, "Oh yeah, I guess I have been doing this. I've been eating a few more calories here and there." And even just in a few months, his weight started to go back up from that.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to kind of reevaluate, because I mean, he was happy with where he was, but at the same time, he still had goals greater than where he was at that point.
Right.
So we had to reevaluate and reassess his goals and get him back on track for that. And a lot of people are going to get to that point. They're going to reach one goal, but that doesn't mean it's over. I mean, there's always the next level, whether that be more weight loss or more muscle strength. Once you get to that goal, you have to reassess and continue on from there.
Right. And maybe you can even shift the goals from an interior goal to an exterior goal. What I mean by that is, maybe you're 300 something pounds and your goal is to get to, under 200, and you finally achieve that, and you're eating healthy and you're eating, clean, you got a good diet, you're exercising regularly, you finally reach your weight goal. It almost on one hand seems like, okay, the goals have been achieved, now what? But I think that's a good opportunity then to take those goals external to you and like say, okay, so now our goal is to train for a 5K or train for a Spartan race or train for, a marathon or train for a triathlon, or do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't all have to be in the gym. It doesn't have to be about how you look. It doesn't have to just be about your health. There are things that you can do, like you mentioned, those Spartan races, Tough Mudders, 5Ks, something like that. I mean, those are fun activities that are still physical. I mean, they're going to be very beneficial for you, and it's enjoyable. So if you have something like that to train for, because the gym does get monotonous, it does get boring coming in and doing the same exercises every day over and over and over again. So if you have something to train for other than just your own personal goals, I mean, that helps as a motivator as well.
And I saw you just ran a Spartan race. Was that this year?
Yeah, I've run 3 this year now.
Oh, nice. Were they all in your local area?
Yeah, I did 1 in Indiana, and then I did 2 in Kentucky. Or actually, I think I had to go to Tennessee for those. It was just across the border, but I think they were Tennessee.
Were they all sprints or?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I want to get the trifecta. I want to do all 3.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of limited to how far I'm willing to travel to go to these races. So I am currently signed up for one coming up in May. It's in Ohio Beast. So
shit.
Yeah, that's their long one. That's going to be another challenge for me. I mean, I can run with the best of them, but there are certain exercises in the Spartan race that I do find challenging. I haven't done a Spartan race yet that I was able to complete every obstacle.
Right.
I ran the punishment and do the 30 burpees, and that it kind of takes a lot out of you to do 30 burpees.
It does. A lot of people don't realize, man, but burpees are the ultimate equalizer, right? I mean, you could take the most fit person and you can knock out, 30, 40 burpees and you're done, man.
Yeah. It will take a lot.
I ran 2 sprints last year, one in Killington, Vermont, which is kind of the home of Spartan Race, and then the other one was in the Fenway baseball park. Awesome. They were both sprints, but they were so vastly different from one another for sure. So this year we put together a team and we're running the sprint again in Fenway again this year in November. So we're looking forward to that. Yeah, man. Would you ever recommend, like, all right, so you have a client like Cliff, right? I mean, at what point is someone ready to kind of move on their own without having a trainer? Or would you recommend continuing with the trainer? Or what, you know what I mean? I mean, some people, no matter how fit they are, I guess still need that motivation and that accountability that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there's always new exercises and new things coming out too. You see the Mr. Olympia competitors, they all still have personal trainers. They might know every exercise in the book. They know exactly what they can do. But having somebody there just to help push you is, I mean, it's a huge, huge thing. So it doesn't matter where you're at in your fitness journey, if you're at the beginning or closer to your goals or even at your goals. I mean, it's always beneficial to have somebody there, to have your trainer. But they do get expensive. So I understand that a lot of people don't want to continue with the trainer. They don't want to feel like they need someone else with them to do a workout. And I mean, that is kind of my goal. I don't want clients that I'm going to have to be with forever. I want them to learn the exercises, learn what they need to do. I want them to learn things at home and do things on their own. But at the same time, it is going to take them. I mean, it took me, I think, 3 years before I really understood what I needed to do myself. And it's going to be the same way with most people. I mean, it's going to take a long time for you to learn that stuff. And eventually, yes, you will get to a point where you don't need a trainer. And at that point, I wouldn't recommend just dropping the trainer completely. I'd do like a monthly check-in instead of seeing them 2 or 3 times a week.
Right.
Just something to keep you on track with your goals. And if there is some new innovative idea that comes out, your trainer might know about it, might be able to suggest things for you, give you new ideas to do.
Yeah, and I know there's certain things that you see and look for in clients. What are some things that folks out there should be looking for in a trainer to help them out?
Well, I see a lot of trainers that, in my opinion, probably need a trainer. I see that a lot at like the larger corporate gyms because they don't necessarily have the best trainers. There's so many gyms out there that it's hard to have a good trainer at every gym. So, I mean, you can't just look at a trainer and be like, he's thin or he has muscle, he knows what he's doing. There are certain things that you're going to notice with every trainer, and a lot of times I see them and they're just not actively engaged with their clientele. They don't have good communication, or they do the same things every day. I worked with a trainer, and he had these ladies that he would train, and they would come in and they would do the exact same exercise every day they saw him, and that was their workout. I mean, he never changed anything up. He had them do completely ridiculous exercises that weren't doing anything for him. And in the long run, I mean, he might have trained somebody for a year, and I would talk to these people on the backside, and they hadn't lost any weight. They weren't any healthier. They never brought up eating habits or anything. They didn't change a lifestyle. They were just there. It was like a social hour for them, more or less,
right,
than a workout. So I find a lot of trainers that just aren't willing to push the clients where they need to be. I mean, you need to have somebody who is going to help you keep on track, not somebody that's just there to talk to you and collect a paycheck.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, I mean, clients are paying their trainer for results, right? And it's up to you as the trainer,
yes,
to work them, and not necessarily be their best friend, but work them, push them, encourage them, motivate them, and then, ask for accountability and ask for, you got to get, I mean, as a trainer, I would imagine you've got to be okay with asking the tough questions like, what are you eating, and why did you eat that? And, you know what I mean? It's about, having that relationship has got to be open and candid. You can't, if it turns into a paycheck kind of an arrangement, then you're losing out not only as a trainer, but you're losing out as a client, right?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I do talk to my clients a lot. It is almost like I'm a therapist for them sometimes. But while I'm talking to them and they're talking to me, I keep them busy. I keep them engaged with the activity. So sometimes I do feel like a therapist. That is definitely something that happens. But I want them to understand the why behind their doing what they're doing, not just telling them to do this. I want them to understand what they're doing so they can move on eventually. And then there are going to be a lot of just personal problems that do come up that hinder workouts. I mean, when your cortisol levels raise from stress, your weight usually increases. And so things like that, if I'm able to talk through something with them to help bring that stress down and get back on track with that weight loss, I mean, that's a win-win right there.
Right. So we're wrapping up here. We're closing in on our time together. I got a question for you, put you on the spot here. So for the listener out there that is wanting to lose weight, or they have some goal in mind and they aren't currently a member of a gym, and they just they hear this episode and they want to get off the couch and do something, what are 5 things that person can do listening right here, right now?
Well, first thing, go to the kitchen. It's going to sound absurd, but throw away everything that you shouldn't be eating. Just throw it out. I know it's, money down the drain. Throw that stuff out. Go to the grocery store, shop, and get your healthy food options. Get your diet right first, and then move on from there. Once your diet is set, I mean, even if it's not 100%, you can start with the physical activity. And you don't need to get out and start running, especially if you are overweight. Running is going to be very stressful on the joints, the knees specifically. A lot of people end up with knee problems because they start something like that too quick. It's like a brisk walk, especially, if you have a dog, go out. I mean, the dog's going to pull you around, so you have to go brisk. But something like that, just getting your heart rate up is going to help drastically, burning a few calories that way with your diet correct. I mean, couple those two things together and you'll already start seeing results. And then there's a lot of just in-home activities that you can do. I mean, instead of, watching TV or playing video games, play a sport, go outside and throw the ball, do something physically active. While you're cleaning the house even, there are like Zumba and things like that, where it's essentially just dance, and you just dance for however long. I mean, that actually burns a lot of calories. You're doing a lot of movement, and it's great. So if you just got up off the couch, I mean, you can start there even. Just stand up and sit down, stand up and sit down, over and over and over again. Do it 100 times. Guarantee after 100 times of that, if you haven't done anything in a while, your legs are going to be sore, you're going to be out of breath, your heart rate is going to be up, and just start right there. You can start on the couch.
That's good. I like that. I mean, because I bring that up because I've talked with several people about, getting in the shape, eating healthy and exercise and starting some type of a plan or a regime. And sometimes I get this, well, it's all these limiting beliefs, these limiting excuses, right, that people throw out there. And they're like, well, I've got to buy a pedometer so I know how many steps I'm taking. And I got to get that app on my phone so I can track my calories. And I've got to get that cookbook so I know what I'm cooking. And I got to get my, running shorts and my running shoes, and they're coming in the mail. And I've got to get that gym membership, and I got to, right? They got to have all of these things, and everything's, all the stars in the universe got to be perfectly aligned before they can actually begin, to get into better shape. And it's, right. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, you don't need any clothes to do some squats on your couch.
Right. I highly recommend not doing them naked, but I guess you could.
You'll be all right.
Close the blinds. Yeah, no, you get some cops knocking at your door. Excuse me, sir. Your neighbors are complaining. You're doing squats naked. Like, oh,
you shouldn't be peeking.
Reminds me of that Cheetos commercial. That guy sitting there that rubs his Cheeto fingers all over his fat belly. It's like, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool. All right, man. We got one more question I ask my guests at the end of the show.
All right.
As you know, this show is called Change Your Point of View. And so here's the question. Give us an instance or a time in your life when you thought something one way, you believed something to be one way, but something happened, an event or an occurrence happened that forced you to see things from a different perspective. What was it, and what did you learn from that experience?
I mean, I used to think, like back in high school, I used to think everything in life revolved around money. I mean, I was always poor. My family was poor. We didn't have all the best things all the time. So I thought then that making a lot of money was definitely the number one thing in the world. And I guess it's been 8 years since I've been out of the house, and I still haven't, made my fortune or anything. But I still want to make money. I'm not going to say that. But like with training, the results that people get, they tell me their stories. I've had people that were right on the brink of death and diabetes. And I mean, their stories are so much more rewarding than any sum of money could have been. I mean, it's just little things like that. Their stories that's what drives me to keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, man. That's awesome. And that's just something about us veterans, man. We just have a passion for changing the world any way we can. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
For you, it's personal training. For me, it's podcasting. For others, it's other things. But that's one thing that many veterans have in common. And
right.
If you're listening to this right now and you're a veteran and you've separated from the military and you're feeling depressed and down and out and don't know what to do with your life and don't have a purpose or a passion or something that you can latch onto that's bigger than you. If you can't find it, then make it, create it, do something, right?
Definitely. Yes. I mean, right here in Kentucky, actually, the gym that I'm working through, there's a member there. His name's Guff, and he runs a nonprofit organization for vets. It's called 22 Until Valhalla. And his organization, he does amazing things with people all the time. Amazing things for vets.
That's cool. Does he got a Facebook group or something like that?
Yes, he does. It's called 22 Until Valhalla.
Okay, that's cool. I'll link that up in the show notes too. All right, brother. Hey, man, where can people find more about you, connect with you, maybe sign up for some of your whatever offers that you have, any programs that you may be doing?
But through just general social media, Facebook, Instagram. Through Instagram, it's Water Dogs Fitness. And you can find all of my videos that I've posted on there. You can send me a message through Instagram there. I'll get back to you through that, or Facebook. I post things on there all the time too. Just Joseph Stotlar. I'm sure it has somewhere on there mentioning Water Dogs Fitness.
Yes, it does. It's Joe Stotlar on Facebook, and it does.
I don't even get on there ever, so I don't look at my own page. I don't know what it says.
Right. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, and
right.
Yeah, it's Joe Stotlar. It's got a picture of a gym with church right across the top, and the links for that page will be in the show notes page as well. So, all right, brother. Hey, man, thank you very much for coming on the show. It was really great to talk to you and meet the guy behind the inspiring story of everything that Cliff and his wife have been able to accomplish. And, it's been through their sheer will and determination and motivation, but man, a lot of thanks goes out to you to kind of help pull it all together and make it happen. So thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, folks. Well, there you have it. That's Joe Stotlar of Water Dogs Fitness, Cliff Ravenscraft's personal, what do we call you now?
Personal Hurt Locker.
Personal Hurt Locker. Excellent, brother. All right, you can find all the show notes for this episode over at changeyourpov.com/episode 109. Never miss an episode. Hit subscribe on your podcast player of choice. We have a lot more great content headed your way. Come be part of our community over at Change Your POV Squad, or come see what Bennett and I have cooking up over at Change Your POV, which is our regular Facebook group page. All right, folks, until next time.
Thanks for listening to Change Your POV podcast with Eddie Lazary. Check out more content by going to changeyourpov.com. And remember, your ability and willingness to change your point of view will open doors of opportunity.